The massive gleaming silver spacecraft materializes in Earth's orbit, triggering global panic and military mobilization. Sirens wail across cities worldwide as governments scramble to respond to the sudden arrival of the Norcadians, an alien race renowned for their technological superiority and striking beauty. Princess Ava, heir to the Norcadian throne, emerges from the ship's sleek hull. Her translucent skin shimmers with an otherworldly iridescence as she faces the array of Earth satellites and defense systems trained upon her vessel. With a gesture, she activates a worldwide broadcast, her melodic voice resonating through every electronic device on the planet. People of Earth, I come in peace. I am Princess Ava of Norcadia, and I have arrived for a human mating vacation. The announcement sends shockwaves through global communication channels. World leaders gape in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the alien princess's intentions. In the United Nations headquarters, frantic discussions erupt as diplomats debate the implications of this unprecedented situation. Edward Holmes, a 32-year-old former Navy SEAL turned diplomat, receives an urgent summons to the UN. His heart races as he's briefed on his new assignment, Earth's liaison to Princess Ava. The weight of humanity's fate settles on his broad shoulders as he prepares to meet the alien royal. As Edward is rushed to a secure facility, protests erupt in cities across the globe. Conservative groups rally against the alien presence, decrying it as an affront to human values. Others see potential in forging an alliance with the powerful Norcadians, their minds racing with possibilities of technological exchange and interstellar cooperation. In a heavily guarded conference room, Norcadian emissaries reveal a startling truth to Earth's leaders. Their species faces a genetic crisis. Crossbreeding with humans may be their only hope for survival. The stakes skyrocket as Earth's representatives grapple with the decision to cooperate or risk retaliation from a technologically superior species. Edward's first meeting with Princess Ava leaves him breathless. Her ethereal beauty and intelligence challenge his resolve to maintain professional boundaries. As he escorts her to diplomatic meetings, he finds himself increasingly drawn to the alluring alien, his training warring with his growing feelings. Unbeknownst to the princess and her human liaison, a sinister plot unfolds in the shadows. A rival alien faction, threatened by the potential alliance between Earth and Norcadia, sets in motion a plan to sabotage Princess Ava's mission and ignite an interstellar war. As tensions escalate and Earth teeters on the brink of chaos, Edward uncovers fragments of the covert operation. He realizes that the success of the human mating vacation is crucial not only for interspecies relations, but for preventing a conflict that could devastate both civilizations. With time running out and the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance, Edward must navigate the treacherous waters of alien diplomacy, manage his growing feelings for Princess Ava, and thwart the impending sabotage. The future of humanity and Norcadia depends on the unlikely union between a human diplomat and an alien princess, as they race against time to forge an alliance that could reshape the galaxy. As the gravity of the situation settled over Edward, he found himself thrust into a whirlwind of clandestine meetings with Princess Ava. Under the guise of official diplomatic briefings, they met in secured rooms within the UN complex, their conversations delving deeper into the Norcadian genetic crisis and the looming threat of the rival alien faction. During one such meeting, Edward leaned forward, his elbows resting on the polished conference table. "Princess, we need to understand the full extent of your people's genetic crisis. How much time do we have before it becomes irreversible?" Ava's iridescent skin shimmered under the fluorescent lights as she sighed. "Our scientists estimate we have less than a decade before our genetic diversity reaches a critical point. Without intervention, our species faces extinction within a century." Edward nodded, processing the information. As he looked into Ava's mesmerizing eyes, he felt a familiar pull, an attraction that seemed to grow stronger with each encounter. He cleared his throat, attempting to refocus on the task at hand. "And what can you tell me about this rival alien faction? How much of a threat do they pose to both our civilizations?" Ava's expression darkened. "The Illyrians are a warmongering species. They've long sought to exploit our genetic weakness. If they succeed in sabotaging our alliance with Earth, They'll likely attempt to conquer both our worlds. As they continued to meet, Edward found it increasingly difficult to maintain his professional demeanor. The chemistry between them crackled with an intensity that left him breathless. He often caught himself staring at the way Ava's hair seemed to float weightlessly around her face, or how her lips curved into a subtle smile when she spoke of her homeworld. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council convened in an emergency session. The chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from member nations argued over the appropriate response to the Norcadian presence. "We cannot simply allow these aliens to use our planet as their personal dating app," thundered the Russian ambassador, his face flushed with anger. The Chinese representative countered, "But we must consider the potential benefits of an alliance with such an advanced civilization. The technological advancements alone could revolutionize our world." As debates raged on, a new voice entered the fray. Dr. Samantha Chen, a brilliant geneticist, approached the podium with a proposal that would change the course of human-Norcadian relations. "Distinguished members of the Security Council," she began, her voice calm but authoritative, "I propose a controlled scientific study to assess the viability and safety of human-Norcadian genetic compatibility. This would allow us to gain valuable insights while addressing the concerns of both supporters and opponents of the mating vacation." The chamber fell silent as the implications of her proposal sank in. After hours of deliberation, the Security Council approved the study under strict protocols. Edward found himself tasked with overseeing the scientific program, working closely with Dr. Chen and Princess Ava. As they set up the research facility, Edward couldn't help but notice the lingering glances and accidental touches between him and Ava becoming more frequent. One afternoon, as they prepared for the first round of genetic compatibility tests, Dr. Chen pulled Edward aside. "There's something you need to know," she whispered, her eyes darting to ensure they weren't overheard. "Our preliminary findings suggest that Princess Ava, and likely all Norcadians, possess unique pheromones that have a potent effect on human males." Edward's heart raced as the realization hit him. "That explains the intense attraction I've been feeling," he muttered, more to himself than to Dr. Chen. "Exactly," she nodded. "This raises serious ethical concerns about human-Norcadian relations. We need to be cautious about the potential for unintended consequences." As they delved deeper into the study, early results indicated promising genetic compatibility between humans and Norcadians. However, Dr. Chen's team identified a potential complication that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The data suggests that any offspring resulting from human-Norcadian unions may possess abilities far beyond those of either species, Dr. Chen explained during a briefing. "We're talking about potential telepathic abilities, enhanced physical strength, and possibly even telekinesis." The implications of this discovery burdened immensely on Edward's mind as he made his way to a secure communication room. He needed to inform his superiors of this development, but before he could reach his destination, an aide rushed up to him, panic etched on his face. "Sir, you need to see this," the aide said, thrusting a tablet into Edward's hands. On the screen, chaos unfolded across major cities worldwide. Massive protests filled the streets, with people carrying signs reading, "Earth for Humans," and "No Alien Breeding Program." At the forefront of these demonstrations stood a charismatic figure, his voice booming through loudspeakers. "I am Marcus Steele, and I speak for Earth first," the man declared. "We will not stand idly by while our planet is invaded by these alien seductresses. We demand the immediate deportation of all Norcadians and the termination of this so-called scientific study." Edward's blood ran cold as he watched the crowds cheer for Steele. The situation was escalating faster than anyone had anticipated, and he knew that time was running out to find a peaceful resolution. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the facility. Edward sprinted to the main control room, where technicians scrambled to respond to a massive cyber attack. Screens flickered with static and garbled messages as Earth's major communication networks fell under assault. "It's the Illyrians," Princess Ava declared, her voice cutting through the chaos. "They're spreading disinformation about us, trying to turn humanity against the Norcadians." Edward locked eyes with Ava, a silent understanding passing between them. They had to act fast to counter the propaganda and prevent a global meltdown. As they prepared to address the world and reveal the truth about the Norcadian mission, Edward couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of their trials. As Edward prepared to address the world and reveal the truth about the Norcadian mission, he felt a sudden urge to speak privately with Princess Ava. The weight of their shared responsibility and the growing tension between them demanded resolution. "Princess, a word?" Edward gestured towards a nearby conference room. Ava nodded, her iridescent skin shimmering as she followed him. Once inside, Edward closed the door and turned to face the alien royal. His heart raced as he struggled to find the right words. "Ava, I think we need to discuss the nature of our relationship. The stakes are too high for any misunderstandings." Ava's otherworldly eyes met his, a mix of curiosity and something deeper swirling in their depths. "I agree, Edward. Our connection has grown complicated." Before Edward could respond, Ava closed the distance between them. Her ethereal presence overwhelmed his senses, and he found himself frozen in place. With a grace that seemed almost impossible, she reached out and touched his cheek. "On my world, we believe in the power of physical connection to forge alliances," Ava whispered, her breath warm against his skin. Edward's training screamed at him to maintain professional boundaries, but the pull of attraction was too strong. As their lips met, a surge of electricity seemed to course through his body. The kiss deepened, passionate and intense, unlike anything he had ever experienced. Suddenly, a soft glow emanated from Ava's skin, growing brighter with each passing second. Edward barely had time to register the change before a wave of concentrated pheromones filled the air around them. Alarms blared throughout the facility as the ventilation systems detected the foreign substance. Edward stumbled back, his mind foggy with desire and confusion. "Ava, what's happening?" The princess looked equally shocked. I don't understand. This has never happened before." Before they could process the situation, the door burst open. Dr. Chen rushed in, her face a mask of concern. "We have a situation. The entire facility is being affected by some kind of airborne agent." As they hurried to the main laboratory, chaos unfolded around them. Male staff members were visibly agitated, their eyes darting frantically towards the Norcadian delegates. Some had to be physically restrained by their colleagues. Dr. Chen's team worked feverishly to analyze the pheromone and develop a neutralizing agent. "We need to ventilate the building immediately," she ordered, her voice steady despite the pandemonium. Edward's communicator buzzed incessantly. He answered to find a frantic aide on the other end. "Sir, we have a problem. Someone leaked information about the incident to the press. It's all over the news." Outside the facility, a crowd had begun to gather. Edward watched in horror as the number of protesters swelled, their angry chants audible even through the reinforced walls. At the forefront stood a familiar figure, Marcus Steele. "Earth for humans!" Steele's voice boomed through a megaphone. "We will not be subjugated by alien temptresses." The situation escalated rapidly. The protesters, armed with improvised weapons, began to push against the facility's outer defenses. Security alarms screamed to life as the first line of fencing gave way. Edward turned to Princess Ava, his expression grim. "We need to get you and your delegation to safety. Follow me to the secure bunker." As they moved through the corridors, the sound of breaking glass and angry shouts grew louder. Earth First followers had breached the outer perimeter and were now inside the building. Edward's military training kicked in. He quickly organized the security team, setting up defensive positions to protect the Norcadian delegates. "Use non-lethal force only," he commanded. "These are civilians, likely under the influence of the pheromones." The clash was chaotic and brutal. Security officers fired rubber bullets and tear gas, while the attackers swung pipes and threw Molotov cocktails. Through the melee, Edward caught glimpses of strange devices in the hands of some Earth First members. Their design was clearly not of human origin. As he fought to repel the attackers, Edward's mind raced. The pieces began to fall into place. The coordinated attack, the alien technology, the precision of the leaked information. This was no spontaneous riot. It bore the hallmarks of a carefully orchestrated operation. In a moment of clarity, Edward realized the truth. The Illyrians, he muttered. They're behind this. A difficult choice lay before him. Revealing the Illyrians' involvement could potentially save the Norcadian mission and expose the true threat to Earth. But it would also mean admitting that Earth had been infiltrated by not one but two alien species. The implications for global security and sovereignty were staggering. Before Edward could dwell on his decision, a brilliant blue light flooded the corridor. He turned to see Princess Ava holding a small, ornate device. With a series of graceful gestures, she manipulated the energy emitting from the object. A shimmering force field sprang to life, encasing the core research areas of the facility. The attacking mob, now faced with an impenetrable alien barrier, faltered in their advance. The display of advanced Norcadian technology sent shockwaves through both the attackers and defenders. Edward could see the mixture of awe and fear on the faces of his fellow humans. The power disparity between their species had never been more apparent. Suddenly, the sound of helicopters filled the air. Through the facility's windows, Edward spotted the insignia of the United Nations on the approaching aircraft. The cavalry had arrived, but with it came a new set of complications. As UN peacekeepers rappelled into the compound, the standoff grew even more tense. Earth First protesters found themselves caught between the facility's security forces and the newly arrived UN troops. Edward and Princess Ava stood at the center of it all, the fate of two worlds resting on their next moves. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Chen's voice crackled over the facility's intercom system. Edward, Princess Ava, I need you in the main lab immediately. We've made a discovery that changes everything. With the UN forces working to contain the situation, Edward and Ava made their way to the laboratory. Dr. Chen's face was pale, her eyes wide with the implications of her findings. Our genetic compatibility, she began, her voice trembling slightly. It's not natural. We've found evidence of ancient genetic manipulation in both human and Norcadian DNA. The similarities are too precise to be coincidental. The revelation hung in the air, its weight almost palpable. As Edward and Ava struggled to process this information, an urgent alert flashed on the lab's main screen. A transmission from a classified government channel demanded immediate attention. Edward accepted the call, his stomach knotting with dread. The grave face of a high-ranking military officer filled the screen. Mr. Holmes, we've detected a large fleet of unidentified spacecraft entering the solar system. Based on Princess Ava's intelligence, we believe it to be an Illyrian's invasion force. The officer's next words sent a chill down Edward's spine. You have less than 48 hours to unite Earth's defenses and prepare for first contact with a hostile alien species. The fate of both our worlds depends on it. As alarms blared and the facility kicked into high alert, Edward turned to Princess Ava. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. The true test of their alliance, and their feelings for each other, was about to begin. The world as they knew it was about to change forever. Edward's mind raced as he processed the gravity of the situation. With less than 48 hours to prepare for an alien invasion, he knew that swift action was necessary. He turned to Princess Ava, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. We need to call an emergency meeting. Now. Get your top advisors and I'll contact our world leaders. This is our only chance to unite against the Illyrians' threat. Ava nodded, her otherworldly eyes reflecting the urgency of the moment. I'll make the arrangements immediately. Within hours, a hastily assembled group of human world leaders and Norcadian representatives gathered in a secure underground bunker. The tension in the room was palpable as Edward stood before them, his posture rigid with dedication. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to share with you will change everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe, Edward began. He proceeded to lay out the evidence of Illyrians' manipulation, including their involvement with Earth First. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembly as the implications sank in. As Edward spoke, Princess Ava stood by his side, her presence a testament to the unprecedented alliance forming between their species. When he finished, she stepped forward, her voice clear and resolute. My people have long known of the Illyrians' threat. We came to Earth not only seeking refuge, but also to warn you of the danger that approaches. Now, we must stand together if we hope to survive. The room erupted into heated discussions. Some human leaders expressed skepticism, while others argued for immediate action. The Norcadian representatives added their voices to the mix, offering insights into Illyrian's tactics and weaknesses. As the debate raged on, Dr. Samantha Chen entered the room, her face flushed with excitement. She approached Edward and whispered urgently in his ear. His eyes widened at her words. Edward raised his hand, silencing the room. Dr. Chen and her team have made a breakthrough. They've developed a treatment to neutralize the effects of Norcadian pheromones on humans. This will allow us to work together without complications. The announcement sent a ripple of relief through the human contingent. With this obstacle removed, the path to cooperation became clearer. After hours of intense negotiation, a consensus was reached. The United Nations and Norcadian leadership agreed to form a joint task force to confront the Illyrians' threat. Edward found himself appointed as the human commander, working alongside Princess Ava, who would lead the Norcadian forces. As the meeting adjourned, he caught her eye across the room. They shared a look of mutual understanding, knowing that the true test of their alliance and their feelings for each other was yet to come. In the days that followed, Earth became a hive of activity. Norcadian scientists shared their advanced shield technology, while human military strategists contributed their expertise in guerrilla warfare tactics. The integration of these diverse approaches created a formidable defense system that spanned the globe. Amidst the preparations, Edward and Ava found themselves working closely together. Late one night, during a private strategy session, the tension between them finally boiled over. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, unleashing a torrent of pent-up emotions. As they gave in to their mutual attraction, something unexpected happened. A soft glow emanated from their bodies, growing brighter with each passing moment. Edward felt a surge of energy coursing through him, awakening senses he never knew he possessed. Ava gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "Edward," she whispered, "I think we've activated something within us, something our ancestors left behind." Before they could fully process what had happened, alarms blared throughout the facility. Earth First, led by Marcus Steele, had launched a series of coordinated attacks on key military installations around the world. Edward sprang into action, assembling a special operations team to counter the threat. As they deployed, he found himself moving with inhuman speed and agility, his newly awakened abilities giving him an edge in combat. In a climactic confrontation at a sabotage missile silo, Edward faced off against Marcus Steele. The Earth First leader sneered as he brandished an alien weapon. "You're too late, Holmes," Steele spat. "The Illyrians will cleanse this planet of your alien-loving filth." Edward's enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge Steele's attacks with ease. In a lightning-fast move, he disarmed the traitor and pinned him to the ground. As he secured Steele in restraints, Edward's voice carried a weight of authority that seemed to resonate on a frequency beyond normal human hearing. "Marcus Steele, you are under arrest for treason against humanity and collaboration with an enemy force." With Earth First neutralized and the planet's defenses in place, all eyes turned to the sky. The first wave of the Illyrians' fleet entered the solar system, their ships a menacing sight against the backdrop of stars. Edward and Princess Ava took their positions at the command center of the joint human-Norcadian fleet. As they issued orders and coordinated their forces, Edward couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the unlikely alliance they had forged. The battle erupted near Mars, a fierce clash of technologies and tactics. Human ingenuity complemented Norcadian advanced weaponry, catching the Illyrians off guard. Explosions lit up the void of space as ships from all three species engaged in a deadly dance. As Edward analyzed the Illyrians' attack patterns, something tugged at the edges of his consciousness. The formations seemed oddly familiar, reminiscent of ancient human military strategies he had studied years ago. He shared his observation with Ava, whose eyes widened in realization. "Edward," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "what if the Illyrians share our ancient ancestors too? This could change everything." Before they could discuss further, Dr. Chen's face appeared on a nearby screen, her expression urgent. "Edward, Princess Ava, we've made a critical discovery about the genetic manipulation linking our species. But to uncover the full truth, You'll need to go deep into Illyrian's territory. It's risky, but it might be our only chance to end this conflict once and for all." Edward and Ava exchanged a look, the weight of the decision heavy on their shoulders. The fate of Earth, Norcadia, and possibly the entire galaxy hung in the balance. As the space battle raged around them, they knew they had to make a choice that would alter the course of history. The decision crystallized in Edward's mind as he locked eyes with Ava. "We have to go," he said, his voice resolute. "It's our only chance to end this conflict." Ava nodded, her expression mirroring his willpower. "I'm with you, Edward. Let's do this." They quickly briefed the Joint Command on their plan, emphasizing the potential game-changing nature of their mission. Within hours, a stealth ship was prepared, its hull gleaming with a hybrid of Earth and Norcadian technology. As Edward and Ava boarded the vessel, Dr. Chen approached them, her face etched with concern. "Be careful out there," she said, handing them a small device. "This should help you decode any data you find. And remember, your connection might be the key to unlocking more of your latent abilities." With a final nod to their allies, Edward and Ava launched into space. The stealth ship slipped silently through the chaos of the ongoing battle, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Illyrian sensors. As they penetrated deeper into enemy territory, the true scale of the Illyrians' invasion force became apparent. Massive warships stretched as far as the eye could see, their designs both alien and strangely familiar. "It's like looking at a twisted reflection of our own fleets," Ava murmured, her eyes wide. Edward nodded, a chill running down his spine. "Let's hope we can find something to stop this madness." They identified the Illyrians' command ship, a colossal vessel at the heart of the fleet. With practiced precision, they maneuvered their stealth ship into one of its docking bays, slipping past the preoccupied Illyrians' crew. Once aboard, Edward and Ava moved swiftly through the alien corridors, their newly enhanced senses alert for any sign of danger. They found themselves drawn to a secluded section of the ship, where the architecture seemed older, almost ancient. "Look," Ava whispered, pointing to a sealed door covered in intricate symbols. "These markings, they're similar to some of the oldest Norcadian texts." Edward ran his hand over the symbols, feeling a strange resonance. To his surprise, the door slid open at his touch, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. The room was filled with artifacts and data crystals, each pulsing with a soft, otherworldly light. As they stepped inside, holographic displays sprang to life, showing images of a long-lost alien civilization. "This must be it," Edward breathed, his heart racing. "The evidence of our shared creators." They began to examine the artifacts, using Dr. Chen's device to decode the data crystals. As they worked, pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The ancient aliens had created humans, Norcadians, and Illyrians as part of a grand experiment, each race embodying different aspects of their creator's abilities. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the ship. Their presence had been detected. "We need to move now," Edward shouted, grabbing as many data crystals as he could carry. As they raced back through the corridors, they encountered the first wave of Illyrian soldiers. Without hesitation, Edward and Ava sprang into action, their movements fluid and synchronized. Edward's enhanced strength and reflexes allowed him to disarm and incapacitate multiple opponents in seconds. Beside him, Ava unleashed bursts of psychic energy, sending Illyrians flying backward. They fought their way through the ship, their abilities growing stronger with each passing moment. Their bond seemed to amplify their powers, allowing them to anticipate each other's movements and cover each other's weaknesses. As they neared the docking bay, a voice called out to them in perfect English. "Wait, I can help you." They turned to see an Illyrian scientist, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "My name is Kraz," he said quickly. "I'm part of a secret faction within our society. We've long suspected our shared heritage with humans and Norcadians. Please, take me with you. I can help you understand the data you've stolen, and I have information that could end this war." Edward and Ava exchanged a quick glance, weighing their options. After a moment, Edward nodded. "All right, Kraz, but any sign of betrayal, and you're on your own?" The trio raced to the stealth ship, Illyrian's forces hot on their heels. As they took off, the docking bay erupted in weapons fire. Ava took the controls, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to navigate the treacherous space with incredible precision. "We've got company," Edward called out, watching as Illyrian's warships peeled away from the main fleet to pursue them. Ava's eyes narrowed in concentration. "Hold on tight," she warned, before piloting the ship directly into a nearby asteroid field. What followed was a heart-stopping chase through the debris-filled space. Ava's piloting skills, combined with the ship's advanced technology, allowed them to weave through the asteroids at breakneck speed. Behind them, several Illyrian ships crashed into the floating rocks, unable to match their maneuvers. As they emerged from the asteroid field, they found themselves in a standoff near the edge of the solar system. Illyrian's warships surrounded them, weapons primed. In that moment, Edward made a bold decision. He opened a channel to broadcast on all frequencies, reaching both the Illyrian's fleet and the human Norcadian alliance. "This is Edward Holmes," he began, his voice steady. "We have uncovered the truth about our shared ancestry. Humans, Norcadians, and Illyrians. We are all children of the same creators. This war is based on a lie. We are not enemies, but long-lost siblings." He uploaded the genetic data they had recovered, streaming it to all ships in range. The effect was immediate. Many Illyrian ships powered down their weapons, while others maintained their aggressive stance. Taking advantage of the confusion, Ava piloted their ship back towards Earth at maximum speed. As they approached the planet, they could see that the tide of the battle had turned. The split in the Illyrians' forces had given the human-Norcadian alliance the advantage they needed. Landing at the Joint Command Center, Edward, Ava, and Kraz were met by a group of anxious leaders from both Earth and Norcadia. The weight of their discovery hung in the air as they prepared to share the full extent of what they had learned. As Kraz began to explain the intricacies of their shared genetic heritage, Edward and Ava exchanged a look. They knew that this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, convincing three species, long divided by fear and misunderstanding, to come together and embrace their common origin. The data crystals they had retrieved held the key to unlocking the full potential of their shared genetic legacy. But as they delved deeper into the ancient knowledge, they would soon discover that their creator's legacy was as much a curse as it was a gift. The true test of their newfound unity was yet to come. The ancient genetic legacy they had uncovered was a double-edged sword, offering both tremendous potential and grave risks. As they delved deeper into the data crystals, Edward and Ava realized the urgency of their situation. The hostile Illyrians' fleet was regrouping, preparing for a final devastating assault on Earth. They needed to act quickly to prevent further bloodshed and unite the three species before it was too late. Edward turned to the assembled leaders, his voice carrying the weight of their shared destiny. "We need to bring everyone to the table, humans, Norcadians, and Illyrians alike. It's time for a summit that will shape the future of our species." The proposal was met with a mix of hope and skepticism, but the gravity of the situation left little room for argument. Within days, plans were set in motion for a historic gathering in Geneva, Switzerland. As the summit approached, Edward and Ava worked tirelessly to prepare their presentation. They pored over the genetic data, collaborating with Dr. Chen and Kraz to craft a compelling case for unity. The compound outside Geneva buzzed with activity as security measures were put in place, the air thick with tension and anticipation. On the day of the summit, representatives from all three species filed into the fortified conference center. Human world leaders sat alongside Norcadian royalty, while Illyrian's defectors, led by Kraz, occupied a section of their own. The atmosphere was electric, a palpable mix of hope and suspicion. Edward stood at the podium, Ava by his side, as he addressed the assembled delegates. "Distinguished leaders, we stand at a crossroads of our shared history. The data we've uncovered proves beyond doubt that humans, Norcadians, and Illyrians share a common ancestry. We are not enemies, but long-lost family." As Edward and Ava presented their findings, murmurs rippled through the audience. They showed holographic projections of the ancient genetic sequences, highlighting the similarities and differences between the three species. The evidence was compelling, but centuries of conflict and mistrust were not easily overcome. One of the human leaders, a stern-faced woman, spoke up. "This is fascinating, Mr. Holmes, but how can we trust that this isn't some elaborate Illyrian's deception. Before Edward could respond, Kraz stepped forward. I understand your skepticism. As an Illyrian scientist, I too once believed in our superiority. But the truth is undeniable. We are all children of the same creators, and it's time we embrace that fact. The discussion that followed was heated, with arguments erupting from all sides. Some embraced the idea of a tri-species alliance, while others clung to old prejudices and fears. As the debate raged, Edward and Ava exchanged a look. They knew they needed something more to convince the skeptics. In a moment of inspiration, Edward addressed the room once more. We propose a public demonstration of our shared genetic legacy. Princess Ava and I will undergo a live genetic compatibility test, broadcast to all 3 species. The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. Such a test was unprecedented, and the potential implications were staggering. After a tense deliberation, the proposal was accepted. The following day, billions across Earth, Norcadia, and the Illyrians' territories watched as Edward and Ava entered a specially designed genetic analysis chamber. Dr. Chen supervised the procedure, her face a mask of concentration as she initiated the scan. As the results began to stream in, gasps echoed through the conference center. The test revealed that Edward and Ava's close bond had activated dormant genes in both of them, granting them abilities that combined the strengths of all 3 species. This is remarkable, Dr. Chen announced, her voice filled with awe. Their genetic structures are adapting, evolving in ways we've never seen before. It's as if their bodies are unlocking the full potential of our shared ancestry. The revelation sparked intense debate among the summit attendees. Some saw it as a promising sign of evolutionary potential, a path to a stronger, united future. Others viewed it with fear and suspicion, concerned about the implications for their individual species' identities. As the controversy threatened to derail the negotiations, alarms blared throughout the compound. Intelligence reports confirmed that the hostile Illyrians' fleet had entered the solar system, their warships on a direct course for Earth. Edward's mind raced, knowing they were running out of time. He stepped forward, his enhanced senses picking up the increased heart rates and tension in the room. We don't have the luxury of division anymore. I propose a joint mission to infiltrate the Illyrians' flagship and neutralize their leadership. A team comprised of the best from all 3 species. The audacity of the plan silenced the room. Ava stood beside Edward, her presence a testament to the potential of their unity. This is our chance to prove that together, we are stronger than we ever were apart. As the leaders debated the proposal, screens around the conference center suddenly flickered to life. Reports of coordinated attacks on key locations around the globe poured in. The resurgent Earth First movement, now allied with Illyrian sympathizers, was attempting to sabotage Earth's defensive capabilities. Edward's enhanced abilities kicked into overdrive. We need to act now on both fronts. Approve the mission and I'll lead a team to counter these attacks on the ground. With the immediate threat looming, the summit leaders quickly agreed. As preparations for the space mission began, Edward assembled a strike team to deal with the Earth First threat. Time was of the essence, and the fate of all 3 species hung in the balance. As Edward led his team out of the compound, Ava prepared to join the space mission. They shared a brief, intense look, knowing that the challenges ahead would test not only their newfound abilities, but also the fragile alliance they had forged. The joint strike team boarded their hybrid vessel, a marvel of combined human, Norcadian, and Illyrians technology. As they launched into space, Edward's voice crackled over the comms from Earth. Good luck up there. Remember, we're fighting for more than just survival now. We're fighting for our shared future. The ship accelerated towards the approaching Illyrians' fleet, carrying with it the hopes of 3 species on the brink of either unity or annihilation. The true test of their perseverance and their newfound alliance was about to begin. As the hybrid vessel hurtled towards the Illyrians' fleet, tension aboard the ship reached a fever pitch. Edward's voice, crackling through the comms, faded into silence, leaving the strike team to face their destiny alone. Princess Ava stood at the helm, her enhanced senses taking in every detail of the approaching Illyrians' flagship. Its massive form loomed before them, filled with weapons and emanating an aura of menace. "We're entering their defensive perimeter," Ava announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. "Prepare for engagement." The hybrid vessel weaved through a barrage of energy beams, its advanced technology allowing it to dance between the deadly streaks of light. As they closed in on the flagship, Kraz activated the ship's cloaking device, a marvel of combined Illyrians and human engineering. "We have a small window of opportunity," Kraz said, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Their shields will be down for approximately 30 seconds during the next rotation cycle. That's our chance to board." The team braced themselves as Ava expertly piloted the ship towards a docking port on the flagship's underbelly. With a series of precise maneuvers, she brought them alongside the massive vessel just as its shields flickered and died. "Now!" Ava shouted, activating the docking clamps. The strike team moved with practiced efficiency, cutting through the airlock and breaching the Illyrian ship. Alarms blared as they made their way deeper into the vessel, encountering resistance from Illyrian security forces. Edward and Ava took point, their enhanced abilities allowing them to react with superhuman speed and strength. They moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other's blind spots and neutralizing threats before they could fully materialize. As they fought their way towards the bridge, Kraz and the rest of the team split off to locate and disable the tectonic weapon. The corridors of the flagship became a battleground, filled with the sounds of energy weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Finally, Edward and Ava reached the bridge. The doors slid open, revealing a figure that radiated power and malevolence. The Illyrian's supreme commander, Vex, stood before them, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "So the abominations have come to challenge me," Vex sneered, his voice a low growl. "You are nothing but failed experiments, unworthy of the genetic legacy you claim to share." Without warning, Vex lunged forward with inhuman speed. Edward barely had time to raise his arm to block the attack, the force of the blow sending him skidding across the bridge. Ava retaliated with a series of quick strikes, her movements a blur as she engaged Vex in close combat. The battle raged across the bridge, consoles sparking and shattering as the three enhanced beings clashed. Edward recovered quickly, joining Ava in the fight. They worked in tandem, each anticipating the other's moves, creating openings for devastating counterattacks. Despite their coordination, Vex proved to be a formidable opponent. His strength and speed seemed to surpass even their enhanced abilities. As the fight continued, Edward noticed something peculiar about Vex's movements. There was a slight delay, almost imperceptible between his thoughts and actions. And, in a moment of clarity, Edward realized the truth. "Ava," he called out, "he's connected to the ship's systems. There's an implant." Ava's eyes widened with understanding. In a split second, they formulated a plan without speaking a word. Edward charged forward, using his enhanced strength to grapple with Vex, pinning the Illyrian's commander's arms to his sides. Seizing the opportunity, Ava placed her hands on Vex's temples, her face contorted with concentration as she used her psychic abilities to interface with the neural implant. The risk was enormous. A wrong move could fry her own neural pathways, but the potential payoff was worth it. Vex howled in rage, thrashing against Edward's grip. For a moment, it seemed as though he might break free, but then his body went rigid, his eyes rolling back in his head as Ava successfully accessed the implant. "I'm in," Ava gasped, her voice strained. "But I can't hold him for long. We need to act fast." Edward nodded, maintaining his hold on Vex while scanning the bridge for a way to disable the ship's weapon systems. His enhanced vision picked out a central control panel, its surface covered in alien symbols. "There," he shouted. "That's the main weapons control. Can you access it through his implant?" Ava gritted her teeth, sweat beading on her forehead as she pushed her abilities to their limit. "I'm trying," she managed to say, "but there's so much data. It's overwhelming." As Ava struggled to navigate the complex Illyrian systems, Edward heard the telltale sounds of battle echoing through the ship. Kraz and the team must have reached the tectonic weapon. Time was running out. Suddenly, Vex's body jerked violently. Ava cried out in pain, nearly losing her connection to the implant. "Something's wrong," she said, her voice infused with panic. "He's activating some kind of failsafe." The bridge erupted into chaos as alarms blared and emergency lights flashed. On the main view screen, a countdown appeared, ticking away the seconds until the ship's self-destruct sequence would be complete. "We need to get out of here," Edward said, his mind racing to find a solution. "Can you disable the self-destruct?" Ava shook her head, her connection to Vex's implant growing weaker by the second. "It's too complex. I can't override it in time." Just then, Kraz's voice crackled over their comms. "Edward, Ava, we've disabled the tectonic weapon, but the ship's going to blow. We need to evacuate now." Edward made a split-second decision. "Ava, disconnect. We're leaving." As Ava broke her connection with Vex's implant, the Illyrian's commander collapsed to the ground, temporarily incapacitated. Edward and Ava sprinted from the bridge, racing through the corridors towards their extraction point. The ship shuddered around them, panels exploding and support beams groaning under the strain. They reunited with Kraz and the remaining team members, fighting their way through waves of desperate Illyrian soldiers. Just as they reached the airlock where their ship was docked, a familiar voice rang out behind them. "You will not escape," Vex roared, his eyes blazing with fury as he charged towards them. In that moment, Kraz made a decision that would change everything. "Go!" he shouted, pushing Edward and Ava towards the airlock. "I'll hold him off." Before they could protest, Kraz turned to face Vex, brandishing an Illyrian's energy weapon. The last thing Edward and Ava saw as the airlock sealed was Kraz engaging Vex in a fierce firefight. Ava took control of their ship, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to navigate through the debris field of damaged Illyrian's vessels. As they pulled away from the flagship, a massive explosion lit up space behind them. The Illyrian's command ship disintegrated in a spectacular burst of light and energy. Silence fell over the strike team as they watched the remnants of the flagship scatter across the starry void. Kraz's sacrifice greatly troubled on their hearts, a poignant reminder of the cost of their mission. As they set course for Earth, Edward and Ava exchanged a look of both relief and sorrow. They had succeeded in their mission, but the path ahead remained uncertain. The true test of the Tri-Species Alliance was yet to come, and they knew their journey was a long way to go. The hybrid vessel accelerated towards Earth, carrying with it the hopes of 3 species and the legacy of those who had given everything for the chance at unity. As the blue planet grew larger in their view screen, Edward and Ava prepared themselves for the challenges that awaited them on the ground. Challenges that would test not only their newfound abilities, but also the very foundation of the alliance they had fought so hard to create. As the Unity approached Earth, Edward and Ava stood side by side on the bridge, their bodies still tense from their recent ordeal. The loss of Kraz caused great concern on their minds, but they knew their work was a long way to go. "We've won a battle," Edward said, his voice low and determined. "But there's still so much to be done." Ava nodded, her eyes fixed on the growing blue orb of Earth. "The gene activation program, the tensions between our species. We need to find a way to bring everyone together." As if struck by the same thought simultaneously, they turned to face each other. Edward saw the spark of an idea in Ava's eyes, mirroring his own. "What if we—" Edward began. "Lead an expedition?" Ava finished. Their shared vision crystallized in that moment, a bold, daring plan to unite their peoples and search for answers to the questions that had plagued them since the discovery of the ancient genetic data. Upon their return to Earth, Edward and Ava wasted no time in presenting their proposal to the Tri-Species Council. The council chamber buzzed with a mix of excitement and apprehension as they laid out their plan. "We propose to lead an expedition to find the 4th species," Edward announced, his voice carrying across the room. "This mission will serve as a unifying effort for all 3 races, demonstrating the strength of our alliance." Ava stepped forward, her regal bearing commanding attention. "We believe that by working together towards this common goal, we can bridge the divides that threaten to tear us apart." The council erupted into heated debate. Some members saw the potential for unity, while others worried about the risks of venturing into uncharted space. As arguments flew back and forth, Edward and Ava stood firm, their unwavering persistence evident in their stance. After hours of deliberation, the council reached a decision. The expedition was approved and preparations began immediately. A diverse crew of humans, Norcadians, and Illyrians was assembled, each member carefully selected for their skills and their commitment to interspecies cooperation. The day of departure arrived, and the Unity, now repurposed for deep space exploration, stood ready on the launch pad. A crowd had gathered to witness the historic moment, a mix of supporters and protesters voicing their opinions as Edward and Ava boarded the ship. As the engines roared to life, Edward took Ava's hand, their fingers intertwining. "Ready for another adventure?" he asked with a smile. Ava squeezed his hand in response. "With you? Always." The Unity lifted off, piercing through Earth's atmosphere and into the vast expanse of space. As the blue planet shrank behind them, Edward and Ava felt the weight of their mission settle upon their shoulders. They were no longer just two individuals brought together by chance. They were the embodiment of hope for a united future. Months passed as the Unity ventured deeper into uncharted territory. The crew worked tirelessly, following cryptic clues hidden within the ancient genetic data. Edward and Ava's leadership was put to the test as they navigated not only the challenges of space, but also the complex dynamics of their diverse crew. During quiet moments, Edward and Ava found themselves drawn closer together. Their shared experiences and the weight of their responsibilities forged a bond deeper than either had anticipated. One evening, as they stood in the ship's observation deck, watching distant stars drift by, Ava turned to Edward with a thoughtful expression. "Edward," she said softly, "on my world, we have a tradition, a ceremony that symbolizes the deepest form of commitment between two beings." Edward's heart quickened as he understood the implication of her words. "Are you asking me to—" Ava nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Would you participate in a Norcadian bonding ceremony with me?" Without hesitation, Edward pulled her close. "Yes," he whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "1,000 times, yes." The ceremony took place in the Unity's atrium, transformed into a space of ethereal beauty by the crew. As Edward and Ava exchanged vows, their words echoing the unity they hoped to achieve for their peoples, the assembled crew members felt a sense of awe and possibility. Their moment of joy was interrupted by a sudden alert from the bridge. The ship's sensors had detected an anomaly, a hidden star system, cloaked by technology far beyond their own. As they approached the system, navigating through treacherous asteroid fields and spatial distortions, anticipation built among the crew. Could this be the home of the fourth species they sought? The Unity emerged from the final barrier of the cloaking field, and before them lay a sight that took their breath away, a lush, Earth-like planet teeming with life and possibility. Edward and Ava exchanged a look of wonder and tenacity. They had found what they were looking for, but they knew that the real challenges in the true test of their alliance were only just beginning.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.